So to kind of kick things off, I'm going to return to the outline actually too, just to describe some of the things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about different assistive technologies that are sort of key to have an awareness of when we're working in the area of digital accessibility. We're going to talk a little bit about disability studies to give some sort of theoretical sort of foundation and framework to frame some of the stuff that we're going to be doing. We're going to talk a little bit about the law. We already heard from Kathy, some really important foundational information. And then we're going to talk about different accessibility guidelines and the sort of governing body of the web that sort of mandates these guidelines. And we're also going to talk in the second half more like hands-on, like how to make your digital content more accessible. So starting off with the assistive technologies that are really important to be aware of when we're working in the area of digital accessibility, switches and keyboard access. So for people with limited mobility, either they're fine motor or gross motor mobility, it's really important to be able to access a computer with either different switch technologies. And on this slide I have two images. One is of a young boy using a 1988 Nintendo NES Sip and Puff switch system. So just by breathing out and sucking in, he can operate the Nintendo NES gaming system. And the second image below is of a man in a wheelchair who has a simple red switch to his right, so he has mobility in his neck region, and he can operate a computer just by tapping the switch. And there are people that there are people that edit movies, design websites, do all sorts of things with these sort of switch systems that are very important assistive technologies. And also keyboard access for people that have fine motor issues and don't necessarily use a mouse to select information or interact with the computer is really important to consider. Second, we have screen magnification, and on this slide I have an image of a woman who has Zoom text, which is a piece of assistive technology software that allows her to zoom her screen in. She's got her screen zoomed in by 4 times. So for people with low vision, this is a really vital piece of technology to enable them to navigate and interact with their digital content. And then finally, screen reader technology, which is primarily very important for people that are blind or have low vision to be able to interact in a non-visual way with the content on their computer screens. So they do 2 types of things. There's speech synthesis, where there's an audio interface that communicates all of the sort of like visual elements and interface components on the screen. And then there's also Braille output. And I have an image on the bottom of the screen showing Braille Beetle, which is a refreshable Braille display that has little motors that pushes Braille pins up that a user who reads Braille can just move their hands along the bottom where the Braille is outputted and read the content of the screen and change the rates for whatever level they read at. So we've asked you guys to bring laptops. If you haven't, that's totally fine, just listen along. But we wanted to demo for you a couple of different types of screen readers. And this is important not only to increase your awareness of why digital accessibility is important, but it can also be incorporated in your workflows for when you're producing content to check and make sure it's accessible. All right?
Okay. So, something on the ground. All right, so to turn on VoiceOver, if you have a Mac, so VoiceOver is the built-in screen reader on all Macs and iOS devices. So if you have an iPhone, iPad, Mac, you have access to this screen reader. So to turn it on a Mac, it is Command F5 on older Macs. I believe the newer Macs with the touch bars have a different command, so that can be, you can look that up if you have one of those. So Command F5 turns it on. Usually when the page loads, I'll get a summary of what's on the page. It'll tell me how many links, how many regions, how many headings. And that's important because these are the elements that I'm going to use to navigate and go around, find my way around this page. So the first one that I like to use are headings. So I'm just going to go make sure
Control option. Option close button. Minimize button. UW homepage web link. Standard content information. FN. Set FN. And Copyright sign 2018 University of Content information 5 items. FN 17 points opens. End of content information copy. End of navigation. Link.
Okay, so,
Heading level 4. Connect with us colon. Heading level 2.
yeah, I'm just trying to get it to the top.
Region featured story slideshow 6 items. Shift. Heading level 4. Can be boundless. Link. Heading level 3. Sustainability. Heading level 3. UW ranked heading level 3. Sustainability at the UW. Quick nav off. Quick nav on. Heading level 1. University of
Okay.
Washington. FN.
All right, so usually a good heading structure will have an H1. If you know anything about headings, there's H1 through H6. H1 would be the first heading that you have on your page, and it will be associated with the page title. So here we have University of Washington.
Main 22. Heading level 1. University of Washington.
First of all, is the screen reader too fast for you guys? I can slow it down.
Yes.
All right, sorry about that.
Option. Control. Command. Control. Option. Command. Voice Alex compact. Intonation 80. Volume 100. Pitch 50%. Rate 45. 40. 35. 30%. 25%.
Is that too slow? All right, so we have headings, right? So the first one is University of Washington, right? So right away, I know where I'm at, and that's what I want to know. I want to know what page I landed on, because it's not very obvious to me when the page loads that I'm on the right page. So some other headings, right, would be
Option. Heading level 2. Featured story slideshow.
all right. So featured story slideshow, that's where the stories are at, and that's a heading level 2 if you don't notice, right? So we're following that sort of heading structure. All right, so another way to navigate is by using what are called landmarks or regions. And those are ways of noting sort of different sections of the page. So there's usually like a navigation section, there's usually a main content section, there's usually a footer. And that helps kind of get to broader areas of the page for faster navigation. So say I wanted to get to well, the page just loaded, right? So I want to get to the main content, right? So let's try to do that.
Control. Landmarks menu. Messages.
So I'm going to press Control and Option. Just generally, to back up a second, generally some voiceover commands, most of the time they use Control and Option. So Control and Option and arrow keys will move your cursor around the page. And Control and Option with other keys such as U, right? Control Option U will pull up a list of different things that you can find on the page. So we're on landmarks, but I want to show you what else is there.
Links menu.
It's not mirroring the display.
Command. No items in links menu. No items in links closing link heading level 2. Featured
Is
story
anybody trying to follow
slideshow.
along?
Command. Voiceover
There,
off.
Max? No? Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. But just so that you guys can see what we can see on the main part and what's being read aloud by the screen reader, I'm going to switch to mirror displays. Going back to the top.
Voiceover on Safari. UW homepage window. 35%. Rate 40%. Option. Command. Option. Command. Option. Toolbar. Option. FN. UW homepage link banner 2.
Okay. So back to where I was saying, so we can navigate by different things. So here, so
Links menu.
Control Option U brings up the list of items. So we have like all the links on the page,
Headings menu.
right? All the headings on the page. So I'm going to go back to landmarks.
Links landmarks menu.
Right? And I'm going to find the main content.
Banner. Roll navigation. Search and quick links navigate. Main menu navigation. Main.
All right.
Heading level 1. University of Washington. Control. Option. Region featured story slideshow 6 items. Option. Heading level 2. Featured story slideshow.
All right. So we got the featured stories. That's in the main content section. Let's say I wanted to go to another page, like the About page. I'm going to go to the main menu.
Control. Landmarks menu. banner, roll net search in main menu net. Option, collapsed menu pop-up link, about,
Right?
press, collapsed menu pop-up, collapsed menu.
Right, and now we're on the about page.
Control option, command, heading level 1, discover the university.
All right, so that's just a little bit of like screen reader navigation on a website with Mac.
All right. And do people have JAWS demos installed on their computers that brought PCs, that brought Windows machines? Okay, so we'll do like a really quick run through with JAWS, which I've been asked to mention. If you downloaded just the demo version, you have access to an enterprise version, which is free through ITS? CATS. So if you guys are going to follow along, if you could go to the JAWS icon wherever, if it's on, saved to your desktop in your applications, if you could open JAWS to follow along. And if at any time it starts talking a lot, you can hit Control to silence it.
Right, and something to keep in mind is you can set up a keyboard shortcut for JAWS if you right-click on the icon on the desktop and go to Properties. Usually the keyboard shortcut that a lot of folks use is Control-Alt-J.
Start, enter.
And now everyone knows how to
Music of Minds, heading level 3 of Music of Minds. Home page.
All right, so we're on the same University of Washington homepage here. One thing you'll notice, right, screen readers pronounce things differently. So I'm going to show you how it says UW.
Slower.
All right, so here's how it says UW homepage.
Homepage.
Right, it says homepage, right? So something to keep in mind when we're creating content, right, is acronyms are handled differently by screen readers and different screen readers as well. So VoiceOver Mac was able to read UW homepage, whereas JAWS read UW as
JAWS activation dialog. This application.
So same with JAWS here. So we got like some keyboard shortcuts to help us navigate around the page. I'm going to press H.
Same page link skip escape banner. H.
It's weird.
Use virtual PC cursor off.
And how do we fare with CUNY as an acronym?
CUNY actually is pretty well. It does well. It just says CUNY.
University of Washington heading level 1.
So I pressed H, and then it went to University of Washington heading level 1. Is anyone having trouble with pressing H?
I think most people don't have JAWS
Okay,
up yet.
cool. All right, so once again, right, with each one,
Featured
right?
story slideshow heading level 2.
Featured stories, so same deal. And I can actually, there's a keyboard shortcut. If you press Q, it'll take you to the main content right away.
Bracket the top main region.
Right? So just same thing there. And also you have features like list of links, right?
Links list dialog.
So if I
Links list view.
If I already know where I want to go to, I know what the link text is, I can just pull up this list of links and type in about.
View. And about enter. About collect link.
And so on and so forth.
Collect visit.
Okay. So this sort of like live demo stuff always takes a little bit longer, and there might be some technical issues for people that are just opening JAWS for the first time. That setup and stuff might be a little bit complicated for today, but what I'll do is, in addition to circulating all of the like the materials from today, the deck and links that will provide you with some tools. I'll send around some links to how to operate VoiceOver and JAWS, just for basic website testing, so you can ensure stuff's accessible when you're working on your content. So any other questions, any questions from people about screen readers that we've tried to demo today and get you to use? There is definitely a huge learning curve when you're just starting out using screen readers. But
Yeah.
the basic techniques for testing websites are fairly straightforward.
And something to keep in mind, right, that I didn't mention earlier is VoiceOver is keyboard heavy, or screen readers, sorry, are keyboard heavy. Actually, screen reader users do not use the mouse at all, and that's something you should keep in mind if you are going to be using a screen reader to test your document or your website, is to not just hover the mouse over things and see if it's going to read it or navigate with the mouse. Try to, as much as you can, navigate around only using keyboard shortcuts. That includes like Windows shortcuts as well as screen reader specific keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, do you want to start talking about that just while I pull the
Yeah.
presentation back?
So our next slide, which is going to be up in a minute, is going to be disability studies and models of disability. So we want to start at sort of a broader level and kind of explain where the disability community is coming from and where we'd like to be in terms of inclusion. So I mentioned earlier, I was a student at CUNY. I got my master's in School of Professional Studies, and my major was disability studies. And in every class, they drilled these two concepts into our heads, these models of disability. The medical model and the social model. Let me go on the slide.
Sure, it's still loading.
So the medical model and the social model. And basically, they explain sort of, there are different ways to think about disability. So the medical model is the way that we've sort of typically thought about disability since basically the invention of medicine. Right? And it kind of just looks at a person with a disability as there's something wrong with that person and we need to fix them, right? We need to find them a cure, we need to heal them. And not a lot of other aspects of their life are given much attention. So things like empowering them to get an education or giving them access to information, or things like employment, transportation, just being included in general things in society that are experienced by everyone. So with that way of thinking, a ton of money kind of just goes into research and curing people, and really, when people with disabilities meet other people, they're viewed as objects of pity, or folks, their skills are underestimated. Whereas the social model is more in line with what the disability rights movement is fighting for today. It takes that emphasis and puts it back onto society. So it asks the question, are we creating a society that is accommodating and empowering to everyone? Are we putting barriers in people's way, or are we removing barriers from people's way?
Slides up.
And the slide's up. So this slide has two images which kind of coincide with these two models. So I'm going to let Claire describe the images.
Sure. On the left, there's an image of people with protest signs saying things like, say no to MBA, say no to pity, say yes to solidarity, unity, not pity. It's a group of protesters. And on the right, there's an image of Jerry Lewis speaking into a microphone with his left hand, and his right hand is placed on the head of a child in a power wheelchair.
Right, so Jerry Lewis, a famous guy, and he used to have these telethons from the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and where they raised a ton of money for research to cure muscular dystrophy. And he did this for about 3 or 4 decades, but the way that he did it was demeaning to people with disabilities and children with disabilities. And the way that he did it was to kind of just focus on people being broken and people need to be fixed, and kind of like telling these really sad stories about kids that will never work, that will never go to college. Well, guess what? There are plenty of students with disabilities in our colleges, and there are plenty of people with disabilities that are working and contributing members to society. So that sort of way was highly debated in the disability community. Folks were against it. That's the So it is more representative of the medical model. And on the left side, we got a bunch of people with disabilities who are empowered and protesting this and sort of fighting for their rights to just be alive and have sort of opportunities other than just being cured. So, and in case you guys are wondering, the telethons are no longer happening. So that's a little bit about disability studies and the models of disability work.
Right, and I just wanted to add like one more thing about the social model, is that it sort of places the onus on content developers, designers and developers to remove barriers and to make content and systems that are accessible to people.
Yeah, and just one practical example, right, of website accessibility is, as a blind person and a screen reader user, if, let's say, the application process to get into college is on your website, it's an online process, and it's not accessible, then that's one less opportunity for me. That's one college I can't apply to, and I won't be able to get in, and one less opportunity to get an education. Same with jobs. Same with pretty much everything that we need to function and become a part of this society.
Right. So we heard from Kathy a little bit about the legal side of this work. We didn't really go too much into what the definition of disability is according to the ADA. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yep, so the ADA is instrumental for a few reasons. It kind of defined a few new terms for us, one of which is a legal definition of disability, which is a substantial impairment that, an impairment that substantially limits a person's ability to perform one or more major daily life functions. That includes seeing, hearing, eating, breathing, standing, working, thinking, and there's a much longer list. It actually, includes mental health disabilities. It includes things like cancer and AIDS are considered disabilities. So the definition of the disability is important because it kind of helps us figure out what is and is not a disability. Then there's also concepts of, another reason it was instrumental is it legally protects people with disabilities from discrimination. So if there's an establishment that serves the public and they serve the able-bodied population and give them a certain level of access, and there's a lack of that same access for people with disabilities, that counts as discrimination. Or if a person with a disability goes to a job interview and they're told, we can't hire you, you're disabled, that's discrimination, and they are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. The other two concepts that are important is reasonable accommodation and undue hardship. And a reasonable accommodation is sort of a change, right? Making a change in your business or your organization. It could be a physical change, it could be staff training, it could be a change to your website to make it more accessible and accommodating to people with disabilities. On the other hand, an undue hardship is if that change would put too much stress on your organization. So for instance, asking a small mom and pop shop to get an elevator might put them out of business. It might be too expensive for them. In that case, it's considered an undue hardship.